Speaker is Bob Ransom, and the title of his speech is Wins and Losses and the End of the Story. Wins and Losses and the End of the Story. Bob Ransom.
Guilty. In the early 1970s, I heard that word a lot. As a young, inexperienced public defender, defending difficult cases, losing almost became a way of life. I wondered, would I ever win a case, and what would that feel like? Then I met two young clients back to back, James and Leon. Taken together, their two cases taught me an invaluable life lesson about wins and losses. James was 19 years old when I met him. He was already in prison trying to get out. My job was to argue his case before the parole board, seeking an early release. Early release was never granted. It was just another loss waiting to happen. But there was something about James. He was bright, energetic, charismatic. He took responsibility for his actions, and he told me how he had found God in prison and how that had changed his life. I believed in James and gave an impassioned plea to the parole board, and against all odds, we won. James was a free man, able to start a new life. I have to admit, winning felt good. 3 years later, I was reading the newspaper, and there on page 3 was a picture of James in handcuffs. He had just brutally murdered a 5-year-old girl. I knew in that instant, as my heart sank, what I thought was a win was nothing but a big step leading to a tragic loss, one that haunts me to this day. Leon was 19 years old when I met him. An African-American youth, he had been a star athlete in high school, but more importantly, a straight A student. Leon was working 2 jobs to help support his mother and his siblings. Leon had never been in trouble in his entire life. He had a bright future. But Leon made one little mistake. He got into a friend's car one night and they went for a ride, cruising to the white side of town, where for some reason the car got pulled over, searched. Marijuana was found. Leon was charged with and convicted of a felony. Nobody wanted to see Leon be incarcerated except the judge, who put Leon in prison for 6 long years with hardened criminals, ruining his life and destroying his family. When I walked out into that hallway, my sense of loss was nothing compared to that of his mother. She was sobbing, "Mr. Ransom, why? Why?" I did not know what to say. Some words stumbled awkwardly out of my mouth, like a toddler trying to talk for the first time in a vain attempt to make her feel better. And I walked away in anguish. Fast forward with me 20 years. I was walking down another hallway, headed to another court, when a booming voice came out from the side. Mr. Ransom, I've been meaning to talk to you. I thought, oh no. Prior client, I lost his case. He blames me for ruining his life. Yes, how can I help you? Mr. Ransom, do you remember me? It's Leon. Of course I remember you, Leon. Mr. Ransom, do you remember what you told my mother when I was sentenced? No, Leon, I don't. Mr. Ransom, you said, God does not make mistakes. There has to be a reason. Mr. Ransom, my mother told me what you said, and that inspired me to study for the ministry while I was in prison. And maybe you know, I now have my own church and congregation. I did know Leon was famous. He had become the foremost anti-gang advocate in the history of the state of Colorado, saving countless young lives. If there was a Citizens Hall of Fame, Leon would be in it. As I walked away, I thought back to that day 20 years before, and I realized what I thought was a loss was a necessary step for Leon to become who I believe he was always meant to be. The Reverend Leon Kelly, a true citizen hero. My fellow Toastmasters and guests, what I learned from those two cases is this. If you experience a win in life, enjoy it, but do not become too attached to it. It may not be the end of the story. On the other hand, if you are in despair, down, or depressed due to a loss in your life, remember Leon. What you think is the sad end of the story just may be what's necessary to make for a better story, a success story in the end. Mr. Toastmaster.